Pests and diseases other than mountain pine beetle. Where's the sum total of that? We are losing forests to pests and disease. And in particular, we are losing plantations to pests and disease, Madam Speaker. Plantations that are on this government's book in many cases as actual free-growing forests are not free-growing forests, but are dead and do not meet the ministry's requirements and should be on the NSR backlog, and they're not in the inventory. The mountain pine beetle. And I want to get to the arguments that a couple of members have made here about the 1990s, because I think it's important to set the record straight. But the mountain pine beetle is now at 14.5 million hectares. Of that, the government's own documentation indicates that at least 4 million of those hectares are what are called non-recoverable losses. So areas that we won't be able to take fiber off of, areas that will be standing dead timber, areas that in many cases will add to this backlog of not satisfactorily restocked. And then in from 2002 through 2007, this government started playing with how they calculated not satisfactorily restocked. They started taking roads out and landings out and various other things out, so they downscaled the number. So the reality, by my calculations, and again, we're going to canvass this in estimates. We're going to actually flesh all these numbers out. That's the way this House is supposed to work. And so it's a forewarning to the minister to make sure he's got the staff with their calculators out, because we have. The accruing, not satisfactorily restocked, non-recoverable losses, potential land base, crown land base that needs silviculture treatment in some fashion relative to the 6,200 hectares that these members are talking about is actually in the order of magnitude of about 6.4 million hectares. Now, if you do the math, Madam Speaker, that's 64 billion trees. That, Madam Speaker, is gross mismanagement of the province's largest asset. And we're going to find out in estimates, Madam Speaker, how much this government doesn't know about how bad it is. The silviculture contractors will tell you what they call the silviculture gap that exists, that has grown year over year. And I want to talk about planting on the Crown land base in a second. But they have been shocked at how much that is accruing, how little work has been done in silviculture throughout this province. But before I get to that, if you want to talk about zero net deforestation, let's talk about the real story, the true story of how big the magnitude of that is, what kind of resources we're talking about, how many trees we're talking about. It's not of bits and pieces of development. It's the massive lack of investment on the Crown land base. So let's talk about a little project that was in the government's 2008 throne speech as well. In the 2008 throne speech, the Premier, in introducing zero net deforestation, made the following comment, and it's about what these members are talking about. Here's the statement. This is from the throne speech, and I quote, "Large urban afforestation initiative will be undertaken. Millions of trees will be planted in backyards, schoolyards, hospital yards, civic parks, campuses, parking lots, and other public spaces across British Columbia. Major investments in tree nurseries will be made under this initiative. Those new trees will help clean our air and lock away carbon dioxide that would otherwise contribute to global warming." And the Premier, as he's wont, came up with a wonderful little catchphrase just to make everybody feel warm and fuzzy that he was going to take care of that terrible thing. And he called it Trees for Tomorrow. So wait a second, you got future forest ecosystems, you've got forest for tomorrow, you've got net zero deforestation, and this little project, Trees for Tomorrow. That was 2008. And the members opposite there, I remember some of them saying in their speeches, how could we be against trees for tomorrow? Oh my God, it's like killing puppies. What did we get? Here's what happened. So far, since 2008 to today, about 1 million trees have been planted. We're not sure. We don't have a proper accounting. We have some project lists. But about 1 million trees have been planted. it said millions of trees will be planted. About 1 million got planted. How did it get planted? Grants, Madam Speaker. You know those cost-sharing things that municipalities, school districts, hospitals hate because they have to bring their money to the table in order to get the money from the government to do what they need to do anyway? So it's done in the form of grants. What effect has it had? Has it cleaned our air and locked away carbon dioxide? If so, how much carbon dioxide? If what, you know, how many cars has it taken off the road, equivalency, all that fun stuff that the government likes to tout? We don't know. No reports. But what we do know, and I challenge every one of those individuals over there who like to just simply take what they get from PAB and read it in here, go to the web page, Trees for Tomorrow. It actually even has a 1-800 number, Madam Speaker. There's 1-800-T4T. I don't know what those numbers are, but T4T and then the rest of the numbers. Cool. Web page, phone number, everything else. Go on the web page, members. And this is what you'll find when you bring the web page up about how to apply for Trees for Tomorrow. There is no intake at this time. You go to the next page about how to apply. There is no intake at this time.
It's too bad.
So how incompetent of a government that it cannot even get its act together to cover its you-know-what by making sure the Trees for Tomorrow program that's supposed to be behind this net zero deforestation is actually still functioning when they're in this House talking about how this wonderful program is going to work. They can't even do that. So again, forgive us for finding it laughable that the government thinks that faced with the order of magnitude of Crown land that is being left to waste, that is not meeting its obligations, and even little programs to help put trees in urban centers, they can't even continue that program, that we just simply don't find it credible that this government puts a bill before us and wants us to trust them that somehow they're going to make it happen in 2012 and 2015. They couldn't even stay the course from 2008, Madam Speaker. 2 years, the program's gone. Now, let's talk about the wonderful investments, major investments in nurseries. That's what the government said in 2008. There's a recent op-ed that reflects a statement by Ben Parfitt, and this op-ed in the Vancouver Sun reflects what we have heard. The critic for forestry, the two of them have heard. Actually, the agriculture critic and I visited a nursery in the Kamloops region. We've heard from every nursery that they are in dire straits, that they are borderline in being able to keep their doors open. That when we have a silviculture gap as large as it is in this province, they do not understand. If they had hair, they'd be like me, because they're pulling it out. They don't understand why the government isn't responding to the challenges confronting them. And what we've got, and Parfitt captures it in this one sentence, commercial tree nurseries across this province are reporting some of the lowest orders for planting stock ever seen. Ever seen. Now again, I know we don't want to confuse the members over there with too many numbers, because they're probably not getting numbers from PAB. But the capacity in our nurseries, is 2.25 billion seedlings, 250 million seedling capacity. Okay, 250 million seedling capacity, Madam Speaker, in this province. What are the orders? The orders, the sowing request for 2011, 126 million.